What's up?
Okay. I think we're live.
Yes,
then?
we are live.
Okay,
welcome,
cool.
everyone. We'll be starting the session shortly. Just waiting for a few more attendees to dial in. We'll be with you in a second.
Okay, cool.
I'm going to try to say hello to everyone as fast as I can. Hello, Darth. Hello, Eda. Hello, Aditi. Hello, Yoth. That's a lot of people. I can't keep up.
Yeah. Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
We're Lesego and Kay from South Africa, and we're going to be your guides on this fantasy ride, I suppose.
Yes, indeed.
Lord.
All right.
1 minute.
There's still people coming in. Very nice.
Yeah.
Hello to everyone there. But let me start with a short introduction while you're getting comfortable in front of Zoom. Oh, still more people coming in. Very nice. All right, let's kick this off. Hello and welcome to Wacom Comic Week on this lovely Tuesday afternoon or evening or early morning, depending on where you are joining us from. Thank you for joining us today on the second day of our online comics and creative event brought to you by Wacom and Clip Studio Paint. And we've got a great session waiting for you today with the exceptionally talented artists from Triggerfish Studio all the way from South Africa. Before we jump into the presentation, let me share some of the very basic housekeeping rules. Nothing to be afraid of, just a couple of very easy to follow tips and tricks to make the session more enjoyable for all of us. So this session is at least scheduled for roughly 1 hour. We might overshoot a little bit, but that's not really bad. And we have Q&A sessions towards the end, but you can also use chat and the Q&A function during the session to raise questions and reach out, and we will try to incorporate them in this session. If you really want to make sure that your question is being seen and noticed, do use the Q&A because that's much easier for us to follow up on, because the chat tends to be busy and things just disappear on the top end of the chat functionality. Zoom offers you a possibility to change the views. So play around with gallery and speaker view on the top right of Zoom, because we'll be doing a little bit of screen sharing. So adjust the size of your video window to optimize the settings for you. Important note and very popular question in all our sessions before is, yes, we are going to record this, and yes, there's going to be a video link in a couple of days shared with you, so you can follow up on this session. All right, on to the next slide. Who are we and what are we doing here? So for those of you who don't know Wacom, we've been around for some 40-odd years almost, and we're pioneers of digital pen input technology. So every time you're sitting in front of a computer and you realize a mouse or a pen doesn't cut it, we hope and we recommend to check out our devices to get you going. And for those who do know us already, welcome back. It's always a pleasure to have you here. You'll be in for a very, very nice session today. The session is also brought to you by our partners, Clip Studio Paint. As you might have realized, we've got a growing partnership with them, and Clip Studio is a very versatile graphics software best suited for drawing and painting and to create a wide range of content with a wealth of unique features. It helps to create anything from illustrations, comics, and concept art and animation. So definitely worth checking that out. And with us today is Triggerfish Studio, animation film production company from Cape Town in South Africa. do check them out. They are producing some amazing stuff, and yeah, more to that later on. This is the advertisement block, and I'm going to keep it as short as possible. If you're interested in upgrading your toolkit, do check out the special offers that we currently run on our e-store with e-store.wacom.com/comic week. And we've got some pretty good offers there for you, starting from a 5% off on the Mobile Studio Pro to a whopping 20% off on the Intuos Pro and Intuos Pro S pen tablets. If you're based in South Africa, do check out the offers from our partner Takealot, who are also offering a range of really attractive offers for you guys. Okay, a lot of talking already. Now to why we're here and what brings us all together. The speakers of today. Kay Carmichael, storyboard artist with about 10 years of experience in South African film and animation industry, and she's been talking with Lesego about storyboarding. Lesego, South African Goblins graduate, co-founder of the Hidden Hand Studios, and runs internship at, excuse my South African dialect, Chimologong Digital Pressing focuses on authentic African aesthetics. Big word, don't be afraid, it's cool stuff you're in for. So without further ado, let me hand over to our fabulous presenters and enjoy the ride.
Whoop, whoop. I guess that's us, Kay.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Thank you.
Hi, guys.
I see people saying nice love. Thank you. Yes, it was made for me. Greetings. So welcome.
I've been meaning to ask though, Lesego, who made it?
Hermit Hand. Hermit Hand. You can find them on Instagram.
That's
Yes,
brilliant.
The Hand of a Hermit. So yeah, welcome guys. This is not the first time me and Kay are working together, especially on something like this. So we are normally over prepared, so we have too much content, but now this is actually the biggest time we've had together. So we hope to not have to rush anything, and we can show you everything that we wanna show. Okay, I go first, and then you.
Yes, please. I'm having a little bit of trouble getting hold of some of the Triggerfish content that I want to show you guys. So I would be grateful for a little time to just sort that out quickly. Okay. You go ahead.
Oh, I must share screens. Share screen one. Hey everybody! So I'm just sharing screens quickly. Cool. So welcome to the fundamentals of story. You guys can see my screen, right? Can you see my screen, okay?
Yes, we can.
Yes, I can.
Okay, cool. So welcome to the fundamentals of storyboarding with Kay Carmichael and myself, Lesego Vorster. That's us there, in case you didn't know. So the technique we're going to use is to grip your attention, because we understand and know that we're speaking to people of different levels, from like beginners to some people who might find this workshop as something that confirms what they know, whereas other people find new things. Okay. So I'm going to start showing you guys storyboard. This is a storyboard that I made for the Hidden Hand Studios, my studio, for a trailer that we're still working on. So I use Photoshop and TV Paint, and this is an export out of TV Paint, which is why I really like storyboarding in TV Paint, because it shows me cameras. You know, you are the cameraman or camerawoman when you are storyboarding. So there's a little sequence that comes here, and it looks as such. I'm going to flip through it quickly just to grab your attention. So these are the roughs. These are all the roughs for a spin. I call it the spinning X. I was told to give what did you tell me, Anu? To warn people, PG-13. So then we move on to the animatic. Look cool. And then this is what the final result look like. If you guys want to check out the video, you can find it on the Hidden Hand Instagram. It's just that videos with so many of you is not really a cool thing. You can't use them actually. So yeah. Okay, I hope people's attention has been grabbed there, because now I'm gonna start. I'm the boring guy. Kay shows the fun stuff, how to actually do it. So this is a document that I've been using for, I think, 5 years. So it's from DreamWorks. It's about, like 10 basic rules of storyboarding. And even when I get stuck, still go back there because you can find other notes which are really extensive, but I find that this has the biggest points that I personally find myself struggling with. So the first point is to avoid flat staging unless it's necessary, you know. So this video will be shared with you. You can read it yourself. I don't want to spend time reading things. So it's pretty straightforward, you know, unless if you are using the Wes Anderson approach to filmmaking, then use it for a reason. And this is so important for me. Lay down grids to help ground your characters and compositions. We received some questions from Wacom before this, and I know that some people want to know how to do things. So I'll show you 3 quick ways of how I lay down grids in Photoshop. I use the basic hard round. Can't see my thing. Cool. So I use the basic hard round, you know, make grids by holding down Shift. Nope. That's what happens if you hold down Shift and you just move it. So you need to let it go. Okay, so that's step 1. The second way is to use the line tool. So if you press and hold in Photoshop, you get a lot of little tools. You can use the line tool. Use it as many times as you want. And then at the end, so I'll keep making the same grid. Can you see that over there? There's a lot of shapes. Select them all. I hit Control E, which is merge, and it makes them into one shape, which I then rasterize, and then you've got a grid. So that's 2 ways to make a grid. The third way, which I think I should spend a little bit more time on, is using, rasterize it, is using the filter vanishing point. I drew one before because I was testing it. Okay. So use the vanishing point. You can literally just draw your own. You just touch it 4 times. And when it's a good perspective, it's blue. When it's sort of not working, it's going to be yellow. When it's really not working, it's red, and it doesn't even show you the grid anymore. Okay, so it's blue. And then over here, you say on the little top left, you say render grids to Photoshop. And you hit OK. And then you have your grid in Photoshop as a layer. It comes in as a layer by itself. It's really light, so what I like to do is to go edit, and then I stroke. Sorry guys, I'm using 2 screens. My stroke is over here, and I'm saying 2 points with the color black. OK. Let me see. Now you've got a grid. So those are 3 simple ways to make a grid, which I highly, highly suggest, especially to beginners. So use the foreground, midground, background, and far background to sell depth. Can you see how really succinct and on point these things are? These storyboarding rules are. So when dealing with multiple characters, try to logically group them to make cutting back and forth easier. That also means maintaining the same screen position. If you're cutting from a character that's from a close-up, and then the character is actually flying after that, it should be in the same screen position so the audience doesn't have to keep searching for them, or else they get lost. You don't want to lose people when you're making films. Okay, be wary of your composition in which everything is parallel to the frame. Unless you're doing it for a reason, it ends up being really uninteresting. But some films have done it quite successfully. And this is mainly a beginner problem where you try to squeeze a character in just to fit the frame. You know, if you're gonna use paper, plan properly. If you're gonna use digital stuff, you can resize. There's no need to be squeezing characters to fit within the frame. Okay, so over the shoulder shots, use them quite a lot, and reaction shots, they really help with delivering dialogue. You'll see this a lot with the Pixar, DreamWorks, Triggerfish, all of them. You'll see that this can convey a message really quickly because you're trying to be as efficient as possible in animation because it's an expensive medium, both time and monetary. So be as efficient as possible, but still as appealing as possible. Okay, and the character squared off and looking at our left or right. Yeah, that means if you're gonna, you see, I'm looking at you now. Isn't that creepy? That's creepy, right? You feel like I'm looking at you. But if I look there, it feels like it's a conversation I'm having with someone. Can you see? So that's what they mean. So if you make the character look at the camera, it's really eerie for the audience, but just make them look at the camera's left or right here. Little things. and exploit different character heights. Yes. But this obviously will have to do with if the designs have different heights, but exploit them so you can reestablish your shot in case you want to move away from it. I hope that makes sense. And number 10, the most important is motivate your cuts. Don't just cut for the sake of cutting. You know, like there's a noise there. What is that? Oh, it's a bull. Oh, then you'll cut to, is the bull charging him? You understand? So those are the basic 10, and you can find them. Just type Disney storyboard, DreamWorks storyboard, and you'll find them. There's nothing hidden from you there. Did you want to say something, Kay?
No, I just thought that was a really good point about motivating cuts. One thing we see young storyboarders or new filmmakers do a lot is that thing of just using a kind of angle just for the sake of it. There's no real story reason why, you know, the camera should be in the corner of the room like a security cam or something. They just saw it used in a police procedural once, and they want to use they just want to use that, but they don't realize. So but the thing is that like storytelling is very simple. At the end of the day, people take very simple things away from choices that you make. So if you put something in the corner of a room like a security cam, someone's going to assume that there is a security cam in the room and that there's a big brother element to your story. If there isn't a big brother element to your story, then you've just kind of diluted your meaning for the sake of a stylistic choice. So that's
exactly.
One little question.
Form follows function.
Totally. Yes. One little question here I saw that was interesting. Like what someone asking about how polished their boards need to be. What's the level of polish you're happy with your storyboards?
As you guys saw, I was happy with this, but that's because I was animating it. This is enough for me. You understand? So you need to think in context. If you design the characters, if you are doing the layout, if you're going to animate it, you can still be rough. But if the animation is being sent to India and the layout is being done in South Africa, you need to be as descriptive as possible. Not painted. You don't need to paint your environment or your characters, but this is why the grid is important. So when you show the grid, at least the layout guys know that, oh, there's a ground there. But you need to know the context of what you're working with. Okay, like the one I'm going to show you next, it was for a story called Lolo, about a little girl who has identity issues with her hair. And this one is just a few frames so as to not give the whole thing away because it's still being made. You know, it was pretty clean because it was made with that in mind, that it has to go beyond the borders of South Africa to go gain interest, and the writer Sly was going to use it to get funding, to create the actual short. You see, so I'm going to show you guys different levels of finishes. That was my point, especially for the independent filmmakers, because you need to be efficient. Again, it's all about efficiency. And you see, excuse me, all of these are things that I got from drawing a lot, just drawing this, drawing that, preparing, doing it on paper first. I love starting on paper, you will see. So there's a little dream sequence, and then she comes out looking pretty. Yay. Hello, Daddy. Let's go. Yeah. She's like, bye-bye, sis beauty. You see. So this is a little.
Very cute.
Thank you. So yeah, we're going to the finishes because that's actually what I wanted to focus on. So for the Cape Town International Festival, which was supposed to happen this year, but COVID. This is the storyboard. This was it, because my studio was handling it and the people that were working on it were around me, so I could tell them what is happening. So this is just one page of the storyboard because we're still going to use it for next year. And the animatic looked like that. That's my number plate because I didn't know whose number plate to use and get sued. You see? Look. That's water, not blood on the window.
It's having a giant nosebleed sneeze in the car.
Oh, then they look
so again, these kinds of storyboards are internal for your animators and for yourself.
Exactly.
For people who can easily verify what you meant by a shot. And I see that they're still very, very detailed because like this took me a long time to learn with storyboards. Like the detail isn't so much in the individual drawing as it is in the sequence of drawings.
Exactly.
So a sequence with a lot of animation can be considered a very detailed piece, because you don't have a storyboard that consists of one image. Like you get that in advertising, and
exactly
that's an illustration. A storyboard is multiple sequences. And like, for example, I had a mentor who discouraged me from using arrows, for example, because he would prefer to see animation happening. Like if there was an indication of like the camera moving from one side to another, he would rather see a beginning, middle, end of that sequence rather than like just arrows with a long board. Yeah, arrows goes there. Like yeah. Which is a valid way to do it, but I saw his point with the animation. It's
definitely.
That's how you have to think of detail as a storyboarder.
I don't know how many like beginners or intermediate people are here, but I'm gonna share with you guys something that really worked for me. So this is a short by Gobelin called Pirates. When I was accepted to the school, I started checking out a lot of their stuff, of course, and I started doing something I call reverse storyboarding. So I watch it and then I storyboarded from watching it, but using just the beats. Okay, I'm not keyframe animating. As you can see, I drew the grid there. It's just me trying to understand their way of filmmaking. Oh, I'm in XM view. So, if you guys haven't seen it, check it out. Just write Pirates Gobelin and you'll find it. So there's a guy who's about to get executed, and pirates are here. Charge, says Mr. Pirate. And then they charge the town, and there's, the pirates are running on the roof, throwing knives, hit the knight falls. Mr. Captain is busy slicing people, slice, pulls this one towards camera, and it's a lady headbutting, and then there's, fight, throw bottle. And this guy is like a Hulk character. As you can see, he grabs this guy and throws him there. You see, use of frame. And this is also when I started learning that, TVs used to be square, but now we don't use square anymore. We use the 1690 by 1080. And he's still hulking. Now it's like a little Avengers sequence where the camera turns, So when I was doing this, I was also learning that, that's one long painting. So I was inadvertently learning about how the layout would look. I didn't think of that. But I was like, that's one long painting. Whereas if I had to just do it without actually practicing it from another scene, I would have failed. I would have failed forward. I would have gotten it right eventually. But this is a way to just get rid of that. Anyway, so lady doing the flippy. It's just a long fight scene here. I like this film because it feels like the 80s animated stuff. Mr. Hulk punches the camera. It's getting to the point, guys. The point is really amazing. Lady smacks, fight, throw bomb, boom. And now the smoke. And the captain is like, go get him. So they hit the executioner in the head. Bloop, executioner falls. The dude who was going to be executed thinks he's lucky. Captain comes, shows him the map with a hole inside. He said, hey. Then you see nice framing. They're using the actual hole of the map. And he looks to the side, and the Hulk character's there, smacks him in the head, and the eye patch falls, only to reveal that the X marks the spot has been in this dude's eye patch. They put it back on the map, and they joyfully walk away, leaving this guy still there at the gallows. And the executioner wakes up, looks at him, pulls the thing, poof, and it's in 2006.
Oh my goodness.
You see, it was...
How long is this? So this is about as long as an NSE sequence that I've seen this before.
Like,
they're like about under a minute,
seconds.
right?
Yeah, 30 seconds, 45 seconds.
Second. Sure.
You see, I really had fun. I learned so much doing this. So reverse storyboarding, guys. Maybe you can ask questions after this during the questions. I think I've got maybe 10 more minutes, and then I want to hand over to Kay. But wait, there's more. So for those that love anime, I know there's my anime lovers. If you guys remember the first time Eren Yeager transformed, I couldn't get enough of that sequence, so I reverse storyboarded it. For those that know, it's the first time where he jumps up in the air, bites himself, and then that's lightning. And oh my God. Cool. So I will not talk you through, but if you get the recording, you can watch what's happening. Or just go check out the first time. It's in episode 11 of season 1. The first time Eren transformed into a Titan. And while I was doing it, I remember this, while I was doing it, spacebar back, yeah. I realized that I was being lost. I didn't know where I was, only because I didn't know where the sky was. So I started coloring the sky blue. And then it made sense. I suddenly knew where I was all the time. See, it's not the lesson I was looking for.
Actually.
You see, exactly. And it wasn't the lesson I was looking for, but it's the one I got. I was like, now I would know how to do that.
It's not the lesson we wanted, but it's the lesson we needed.
We needed, exactly. So yeah, I just kept going till I couldn't go anymore. I think there's like on page 6, I was like, okay, I get it now. Okay. And this made me respect the animators a lot more, because the thought they put into this, like if you look at the drawings carefully, they lead with the hip, because the 3D maneuver stuff is on the hip. So it's amazing. It's amazing. And I only realized after reboarding it, because I knew something was intriguing. I was like, what is it about? I couldn't stop watching it. So yes, reverse storyboarding, guys. It really, really works in your favor. Okay.
Yeah, no.
So,
totally. I think we have like a 5 minutes or so, just like maybe we can address some of the questions that were thrown your way.
Sure.
Oh, someone wants an ebook of your storyboarding rules, which is very sweet. Let us have a look. Did you learn to draw digitally at first, or do you start with sketches? Like, what do you prefer to start as all in paper?
I'm this guy. I am this guy. But I know I hate saying the new generation. It makes me sound so old. I'm only 31, guys. But I know the younger people just goes directly into Wacom. I like doing that, but I prefer going on paper because I care less. I know I can literally crumple it up, and the option of Control-Z is not there. And I like that because it actually makes me work faster. So that's personally me.
Yeah. What's someone asking, what's the difference between an animatic and a, sorry guys, if you're asking questions in the chat, by the way, I'm looking at mostly at the question and answer because the chat is crazy. You guys are very chatty, which is very cool. Yeah, someone asking the question between a storyboard and an animatic. An animatic is a filmed storyboard. It's just the storyboard edited. Maybe you can get really as basic or as intense with that as you like. A lot of people like to do some scratch voices with it, maybe even have the actors come in and do kind of a pass over the storyboards. The director will often do his own scratch voices. I finished up working on a film with Triggerfish about a year ago, and will be released eventually, maybe a year or two from now. And the director there had like a whole little setup right next to his desk with a mic and everything, just that he would just quickly, it was kind of like a way of writing for him. And that's, I think, the important thing to remember with storyboarding is that it is a form of writing. It is not a form of drawing. It's that's really what is
exactly.
That's really what the powerful part of storyboarding is.
Exactly. Yeah. So guys, I think to finish off my little segment, I'm going to show you guys some books that I found really useful. There are 2 of them are extremely hard to find. This one, Grizz and Norm, 100 Tuesday Chips. It's so hard to find that I've ordered it with a friend of mine who's in America. Like, I can't find it anymore. But they still have a lot of stuff online. I'm sure you guys have seen these things, Grizz and Norm. So check that out. Also, framed ink. That's easier to get. You can check out framed ink. That's
a goodie.
Yeah, because storyboarding, you're a writer, you are a composer. Like, composition is so important, and this will make you focus on that without you even realizing what's happening. And the last one is anything by this man, by Mr. Hans P. Bacher. His sketchbook, Composition Studies for Film.
Man.
Yeah, I know, man. Oh. So, he does really simple things, just lasso and a little bit of a texture here and there, and it sells the idea. So, for the people that are interested in getting into this field of work, I offer you this one wisdom. You must read. As Kay said, you are writing, so you cannot storyboard if you don't like stories. You won't like it. You won't like the job. You understand? You have to watch closely, guys, because now you're studying film. You're not just watching it for entertainment. And you'll see it sort of spoils the way you watch films, and it also heightens it. Okay, so watch closely. As you can see, I'm stepping on your face so you can watch closely. And draw. There's no other way. And draw.
No.
That's Sesatu. You put those things together and you'll see. And it's also about repetition. Like there's a saying in the in filmmaking, animated filmmaking, that boarding is reboarding. That's what it is. It's all about reboarding until you're never gonna get it right. You're gonna board until someone takes it away from you. Like, it's good enough. We need to move. And you have to get used to that.
Yes,
Cool.
totally.
Indeed. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen now.
Cool. I
can still show you guys more stuff if we have more time, but I'll stop sharing now.
Yeah, I'm just trying to sort my life out live.
So there's a Q&A and a chat. Okay, cool.
Okay. Yes. So hi guys, I'm Kay, and I have been a storyboarder, as Ruben said, for about 10 years now, or thereabouts, feels like 10 years. And I started actually working out in animation at first. I studied animation through a film school. It was a very haphazard little course, not anything, it wasn't really very deep, but we did get to make a lot of films while we were doing it. I made about 7 short films while I was studying, one way or another. And that taught me a lot just about kind of how it gave me a love of stories and how to put stories together. And I found myself very discontented when I got into actual animation and realized that, oh, it's for highly technical people who are extremely patient and really enjoy the details at the end of the process, which was not really where my heart lay. I more wanted to be upfront in the production. I wanted to be making creative decisions up front. I wanted to write. I wanted to direct. So storyboarding and comics kind of suggested themselves to me, one more as a way to make money, the other one as a way to definitely not make money, not as a South African creative, not as a South African comic artist anyway. So I've done a couple of comics called Sophie the Giant Slayer, which are up on tapis.io. You can have a look at those. And so that was kind of like a hobby career, while my main career was in storyboarding and in working on a lot of live action film. And lately I'm coming back around to animation, and I'm now working on some animated projects with Triggerfish. I have been given some stuff to be able to show you from Triggerfish, which would be very nice. And I need to share my screen, don't I?
Guys, I'm typing responses as to the answers I have, so as to not disturb. Okay.
Yeah, no, go for it. Cool. So here are some images from a beautiful little project that Triggerfish did a while ago. They did a lot of they did a lot of BBC shorts that you guys may or may not have seen for Julia Donaldson's children's books. This one was called Snail and the Whale. And a lot of the concepting and a lot of the pre-production was done here in South Africa. And I will try to show you some of the storyboards, but we can't really do video on the Zoom call. So we may have to confine ourselves just to the very, very pretty art. And it's about a little whale who catches a ride with a humpback whale all across the world and just sees these gorgeous vistas, and is sort of with the little snail community here, like confined to the rock. And I kind of show you guys this, and it's a bit of a tangential jumping off point to what the topic that I really want to touch on here. But I thought this would be really nice to just kind of show you, because it's always lovely to look at pretty art. Show you a little bit of this production art, because what I think is very important to know for you guys wanting to go into comic art. If you're interested in comics, you're probably interested in putting together a comic. And if you're interested in putting together a comic, you are interested in the flow of story. You're interested in how story brings across character, how it brings across theme, how it speaks to your life, how you might use it to be autobiographical in some way. You're looking for a way to express, in short, your voice. So like I kind of show you some of this concepting stuff to show you where as South African artists, we have to kind of, if you have a drawing skill, at least here in the South African film industry, you have a relatively rare skill. And it's very useful in terms of wanting to get into concept art and wanting to get into production art and wanting to get into all the various little itsy bits of, there's a whole spectrum ranging from like the drawing side of it to the very technical, like putting that together in 3D, making sure every little detail is kind of right. And this takes a spectrum of personalities and a spectrum of interests. So if you are wanting to get into comics and you're like, oh, comics don't make money, or comics don't, I mean, you're European, maybe comics do make money there. Certainly not the case down here, but you can kind of find a career in various aspects of this. And I think filmmaking and animation are probably the most closely tied to comics and to storyboarding. Storyboarding, comics, and filmmaking and animation are kind of all, they share a very large Venn diagram together. But really what you kind of are wanting to do ultimately, I think when you do a comic, is to express your voice and to bring yourself across as a writer and a director. And you're directing a film in your head, or at least I am when I do comics. My comics have been accused, shall we say, of being very storyboardy and very sort of cinematic, but I don't know if that people really mean that as a compliment or not.
That can never be a bad thing.
Can never be a bad thing. So it's one of those things where I'm just gonna get my thoughts together on this. People ask me a lot, like, what do I do with a comic? How do comics make money? How do I kind of, what's the step after comics? Because most people don't think anywhere beyond just, I want to make a comic. Mm-hmm. That's cool. You've made a comic. Now, what do you do with it? Do you go the publishing route? Are you a bookseller then? Because that is what you will be when you make a physical book copy of your comic. And what I kind of want to, I mean, actually, maybe it's really good that we're looking at a Julia Donaldson story here, because this is a woman who made beautiful books with an illustrator called Axel Scheffler. And her work has in turn made a whole bunch of other work for a studio and like 100 odd people down here at the bottom of Africa in a kind of roundabout many years later sort of way. This might be the case with your, shall we call it IP, your intellectual property, which is really what you are kind of making when you make a story. You're making intellectual property. You're making a story that will then go on to be shown in many different forms. So what Triggerfish and what a lot of production companies are actually kind of doing now and thinking of doing now, not specifically, this is not like codified in any special way, but sort of what we're finding is actually really useful about comics, specifically comic books, specifically graphic novels, is that they are wonderful pitch documents. They are an amazing way for you to show people you can write, B, show people you can finish a story, because that is not to be taken for granted at all. When you are trying to get into the creative field, it's like I remember this being a really something that my teachers and my mentors really hammered when I was sort of when I was younger and wanting to make a story, wanting to do a thing. They would all tell me, it's like, everyone says that, everybody talks about that. You will meet a lot of people in your life who will talk about getting a story done and will never actually make a story. And one cool thing about storyboarding I found is that it really helps you get over the hump of things not looking great, things not looking perfect. And you can kind of see here with the bear that we're looking at right now, pretty sketchy, pretty basic. Even the color, the pretty color image of him at the corner here, it's like, it's just somebody kind of playing with an idea of like, how would the color look? How would fur come across? How do we kind of make him look like he's bulky and furry and so on? But while this is very obviously like the tone of the show is very sort of claymation-y, but done in 3D. So like, how does that begin to translate? How do we take the real bear across from here with, if you can see right very small in the corner there, the bear that's sort of standing on the shoreline looking out. That's the Axel Scheffler thing. It's like, how do we take that character design and begin to pull it over into 3D, into a 3D object that is affected by light and weight and is going to interact with the 3D world. So yeah, I mean, I'll pop over quickly to, oh, where did I put the damn thing now?
And also,
oh
Kay,
yes, I
when
remember.
when you stop caring about how good the drawing is or how on model it is, you actually you release so much. You release so much like stress from yourself, and you can actually you grow. The less you care, the more you grow. It's a weird concept,
Yeah.
but that's what happens.
Yeah, totally. So here I want to show you a couple of frames from a comic that I roughed. I roughed these 2 pages of comic for a pitch that is it's hard to explain. It's a screenplay that my friend Anthony wrote a while ago and has been trying to get made into a movie for a long time, called Sea Monster. And it's about a girl who befriends the sea monster. And he eventually, like, he works in development, which, if any of you have any experience with development, it's an interesting process. It's an exciting process, but in the world of animation, it's kind of like a lot of people just trying to cook a steak by committee. I think that's the way Douglas Adams put it. That's development is hell sometimes. It is a long process of trying to get your movie from a script to showing it to people, to getting people interested, to people giving input on it, to people looking at it, to people wanting a pitch document, to people wanting a script, to people wanting some talent attached to. It's a whole million billion steps, and it all takes months and months. It's a long process. So he gets sick of it occasionally and just wants to finish a project. So he brought Sea Monster to us, and he found a little bit of budget and he put it together and was like, cool, let's just do a comic of the movie, because it is amazing how much quicker people want to make a thing when they can see the thing. It's one of those really not great, or I don't know if it's not great, but it's human nature, of course. Like, we don't want to put money or lose money on an idea. We want to put money forward onto things that we can actually physically see. This is why book adaptations are a thing. This is why the Marvel universe is just being mined like Newtonium for all of its content, for all of its possible story content. So, I mean, as you can see, like, this is a kind of an example of what like rough comicking would look like for me. And I think, well, let me see if I can find the finished pages just over here somewhere. So this is what one of the finished pages looks like. And I think we decided to push the other one. This is like finished by a colorist, finished by an inker, 2 separate people. And then we decided to go for a big splash where it's like, this is where she first kind of sees this creature. So yeah, very, very cool, very fun, and very grateful to Anthony for letting me have this. So this just gives us a really good impression of where, where you can potentially take your IP and what you can potentially be using your storyboarding for. And this is the same with short films. I'm kind of making a film right now where I'm using my primary my primary outset as a storyboard artist to make a storyboard and then add things to the storyboard, but using that as a way of writing, because I understand this now about storyboarding and about making stories and about pitching stories to people, that it's much more about giving people a good idea of where you want to go. It's much more about helping people to see their way clear to supporting you in your dream of going where you want to go. And sometimes that means giving them a storyboard. Sometimes that means giving them a book to read, giving them a full story of where you want to go to. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like, people might just as easily look at this as they may look at that, but they kind of tell the same story. One's prettier. This might be the pitch document image, for example. But if you wanted someone to read the whole story quickly, you might show them a book full of these sketches, because they'll get the idea, they'll get the story from these sketches. It's not necessarily that much more information to give them a full finished story of this. So I don't know, hopefully I've made my point on all of that. And now I'm going to break down a bit of script for you guys. So I've chosen this bit of script. I'll leave it up here for a second, see if you guys like recognize the piece of script or where this is from. You may have seen me frantically putting it together beforehand, and so you might have a good guess. Are there any like questions we can look at in the meantime?
There's so many. There's so many. I've been trying to type answers to everyone, but I can't, guys. There's so many.
So yeah.
Yeah, just pick one. Go to the Q&A and just pick like a couple.
I know.
Hey, someone said Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, there we go. I like that story by Robin. How do you decide which scene is better for the story? This is super interesting, just because like this is a man. Like if I knew the answer to that, the honest truth is that when you are doing a storyboard, when you're doing a comic, sometimes you are just going with the next best idea. And putting that in, and it's really only ever a placeholder. That's kind of what people mean when they say phrases, when they say like, you know, crappy phrases like murder your darlings and so on. That's sort of what they're talking about, is that everything you do is really just a placeholder for a better idea that comes along later. And sometimes it comes along after you've finished the movie. And this is, you know, every level of director, every level of artist, every level of writer experiences that. And it's not so bad, but it's very annoying sometimes. Like you literally just have to go with the best idea you have at the time, and you have to go with the resources that you have at the time. So we were saying in our last little jive, Lesego and I, that some of the best shots and the best scenes in cinema were mistakes, or they were last minute rewrites. Like obviously, like cinema isn't really a mistake when you're you know, purposefully doing it, but sometimes it was supposed to be something else, but something happened on the day that just made it impossible. There's tons of stories like that in cinema.
Yeah, exactly.
So so we've got a little bit of Pulp Fiction here, and I chose this specifically because I don't really remember how the scene is shot. It's been a long time since I've seen Pulp Fiction. It's been a long time since I've seen most things, but I thought this was just good in terms of like, it's a little bit of script that we're going to break down super quickly. How much time do I have? We'll still try to do it in 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So I'm going to read it.
We still have 10 minutes at the end for some Q&A. Maybe the host can choose a couple of questions because there's a lot here.
Yes. So yeah, I'm gonna try and fly through this really quickly and see if I can storyboard this. And when I say storyboard, I mean I'm gonna storyboard like that, guys.
Yes.
Quick tip on drawing. Quick tip on drawing people. If you want to thumbnail people really quickly, draw them like this. It's called the Starman, and it's useful for directional things. You can make the Starman look wherever you need him to look, and when he's sort of like, if he's trying to touch his toes or something, he has a little bit more definition than if he were just simply a stick man. Not how people touch their toes. They bend their head when they touch their toes. And you can also like easily just add little like stupid feet and hands and things to him. And then suddenly you've got like a volumetric figure that is useful to you in drawing. So here we go. From here on in the scene, everything is frantic like a documentary in an emergency ward, with the big difference here being that nobody knows what the F they're doing. Jody, who's she? Lance looking up at Jody. Lance, get that black box in the bedroom I have with the adrenaline shot. Jody, what's wrong with her? Vincent, she's ODing on us. Jody, well, get her the hell out of here. Lance and Vincent in stereo, get the fucking shot. Jody, don't yell at me. She angrily turns and disappears into the bedroom looking for the shot. We move into the room with the two men. Vincent to Lance, you two are a match made in heaven. So I like choosing this. I'm gonna like reimagine the scene a little bit, just the way I would do it if I were directing this shot. There's a couple of little indications in here that we can look for. For instance, the camera scene of it's a pretty broad thing over here saying this looks like a documentary in an emergency ward, except that nobody knows what they're doing. So we could take that quite literally and go and look for reference of emergency wards, what it's kind of like. There's often like a camera on the bed while they're wheeling it frantically through the halls and stuff like that. kind of do this, but I know from the movie that this is Uma Thurman's character. I forget her name exactly, and she is OD'd, and they're in some drug dealer's house, and so they're not in anything like an emergency ward. They don't have stuff like that. And then the camera movement over here, we move into the room with the two men. So this presumably is like maybe we're standing on the front doorstep. I'll go with that. So there, as far as I can tell as well, I think in the actual scene, if I look at the image that I pulled up of this very briefly, with John Travolta's character, who I do remember is named Vincent. I believe this is Lance, drug dealer guy. And I'm going to say that's Jodie. I'm just going to X out her, whoever she is. I just assume she's like a druggy person who's kind of there in the background, watching this whole scene unfolding. But yeah, so Vincent's the one who's like, this is his boss's wife. He has to prevent her from ODing, or his life is probably forfeit. This is Lance, who is just kind of clueless, and this is Jodie, who's a little bit hysterical. So this is, I'm just going to give myself that to work with, and say probably Lance and Vincent have this woman who is just really out of it. Like they have her at the front doorstep when this woman opens the door over there. I wonder if I can put this on a separate thing. Oh, it is. Okay, that's fine. So I might do something like this when I'm just sort of roughing things out, and give myself just a little bit of space to play with around a document. Like I'm not even going as intently as looking. I will do this actually even on a script itself. I'll just take a big fat stupid pencil that will, or pen that will prevent me from getting too bitty and too detailed, and I will just go for it. Do I have? I don't have any of my normal crap here. I'll just use that as a kind of a thing. Throwing down a little bit of shade here helps you to sort of ground a character in the foreground. So I'm going to say this is Jodie, this is Vince, this is Lance, and you can color code these characters as you wish, kind of going through as well. So maybe the men are busy talking, and this whole little bit of dialogue kind of will take place at the door that Jodie is guarding. Like Jodie has to be persuaded to let them all in. So maybe we go to Vince afterwards, and he says, no, we're going to Lance. He's the first one to talk, isn't he? So we go to Lance. He's talking to her. He's sort of holding this fainting woman and talking to Jodie. We go to Jodie's line over here. And she's just like, we'll just give her like a scene of like what she must be seeing from the door. So she's just seeing these three people here at the door, and she's just like, what the hell is going on here? Do I have some opacity? Yes, I do. Hallelujah for opacity. So this is
basically what you're doing now, Kay, is beat boarding. You're just getting the major beats.
Totally, yeah. So this for me is the fun part, honestly. A lot of people really want to get to the inking part of their lives. I don't. I live in the thumbnails. Can
you please speak more about thumbnails? Can you please speak more about thumbnails? I've had to answer a couple of, maybe 7. Explain what thumbnails are. Can you speak?
Okay. So thumbnails are these. Thumbnails are these crappy little drawings at the beginning of a thing, where you are literally just writing with drawings. You are literally just writing with shots. You are not to think of them as drawings, because the minute you think of them as drawings, you're putting too much effort into them. And plus you're doing this alongside a script. So I'm constantly referring back to, what are these characters saying? What is their, like I'm feeling my way through this. It is a little bit looser than a lot of other people do it. Some directors will go out and actually shoot this with a camera. They'll set up their assistants or their ADs, or maybe even get the characters in, the actors in there if they have them available, and they will just like quickly shoot something out with none of the set dressing. They'll just find a door and say, cool, now we're rehearsing this, or they'll like take pictures during rehearsal to do this, to get some visuals to see, does this work? Because while the actors are worried about the scene playing out and worried about their lines playing out, the director is worried about, like, does the visual language support the scene? And is it out of the way enough? Because the great trick with storyboarding is that if somebody notices your cool shot, if somebody notices how cool your shot is, or how, how good your composition is, you kind of done it wrong. It's, like it needs to be out of the way and invisible and just supporting the entire scene as you go. So we're on to Vincent's scene really quickly. Well, maybe we'll do like a twin to this scene over here. It's like Lance has got the weird long hair. Actually, they've all got weird long hair in this, but I'll just, like, I don't know, I'll give this guy a little butt cheek chin, Travolta style. And he's also kind of helping her here. It's like saying she's ODing on us. Jody is not having the reaction that you kind of expect from somebody who's faced with an emergency situation. She's like, get her the hell out of here. And, like, from her point of view, she just doesn't want to be involved in any drama. She's scared of what the consequence of this whole thing might be. So we might even cut back to her. We could cut back to this image of her over here. We could just cut to what we call a single on her, where there's no one else in frame. And where she's just like, again, when actors, like, look at the camera, they're not really looking at the camera. There's actually a very specific thing that they do with actors where they will put a bright little sticker right on the corner of the lens, not the lens itself covering the camera hole, but right on the corner of the lens. Yeah, right on the ear or something, so that they are looking just off center of camera when they appear to be looking directly at camera. But yeah, she might, like, make kind of a hand gesture saying, like get her out of here, and try to even, like, close the door on them, and maybe, like, Vince comes in and, like, holds and grabs the door, grabs it as she's trying to close the door on them. And they might just, like, push their way into the hallway here anyway. And this, I think, doesn't actually maybe work with this with the shot as much, but, like, this might work if they've already, like, pushed their way in. But I'm just going to go with it as the big moment where the scene sort of changes from outside to inside is the moment where they decide to give this single, like, kind of comedic dual line of, like, get the fucking shot. So it's maybe it's kind of them breaking into that we could even do a shot just, like, right behind Jody here, where the two men, like, are yelling at her simultaneously, and as they push their way into the door.
No, okay, I agree with you. This is my favorite part as well. Like, I really like ugly drawings and just going, I wish I could give them to someone who understands my brain and they do the pretty stuff. This is my favorite part, from script to a doodle. Yeah, it's my whole, and it you know what helps is actually keeping the whole, it's a thing that they talk about in painting sometimes, where you kind of don't want to go too close. Like, I don't want to work at this volume. I kind of want to keep it as far away from it as possible, because, again, I'm always keeping one eye on the script. So I already screwed that up by not doing that, by not looking at the script while I'm going back and forth. And there was already probably a better way to do this line, like when they're already in and, like, they're laying her on the floor and then they both, like, turn around to her maybe. So I could have already progressed the shot over there, but we don't have time to go back and cry over spilled milk. And or maybe go back to a single on Jody, or like maybe she's overwhelmed by the situation, like physically and sort of just emotionally, and she goes like, "Don't yell at me." So this would be her shot here. And like maybe there's a suggestion of a hallway that she's going to run down just now. So like in that same shot, she would maybe like
run down the hallway looking for something while the two men are just in the doorway over here, sort of talking. Like this is like the A shot of this. This is the B shot of this. You kind of want to show in live action. You maybe want to show a movement in terms of like if a character moves and changes place from one spot in the set to another, or if the camera changes place. That's kind of when you move the camera. Beyond that, you don't really want to go into as much bitty detail as you do with animation. Yeah, maybe we'll just go back to the two guys here. So where Vince says to is saying to Lance, who looks at him, and he's being very sardonic here. So kind of put on his sardonic face, and he goes, "You two are a match made in heaven." And yeah, that'll be kind of the end of this. That'll be sort of the end of my storyboarding this sequence. So that's just really quickly how I might break down a script. And I might not go as much as like I kind of like added a little bit of extra flair there in terms of, showing you guys which lines are going where, but I might specifically do that if I want to remember later on when I have the script in front of me and I'm going full digital and I'm now playing with all of the bells and whistles. I might want to remember like, okay, this line is for that, this line here is for that frame over there, for example. So yeah, but this is really about I hope you're beginning to see that when you are storyboarding, you are working your way through something visually. You're either trying to write something from scratch, which I don't always recommend, or you're trying to process a big bit of writing that someone has given you. Because like if you're a director and you have to break down a script and you have to break down a story, that's a lot of work. It's a lot to process, to kind of process a story. And your main goal with it always is not to be fancy, but to be clear. Mm-hmm. So exactly. Usually like to the question earlier of what's the best scene to go with, or what's the best choices to go with for a scene, usually the answer is whichever one gets it across clearly. Yeah, and remembering a lot of the time as well that as a storyboard artist, you are servicing someone else's story. It's not you being the director. You are trying to add to it. You're trying to plus what's there. You're not trying to hijack someone else's thing and go off and make your own thing.
Yeah, but you also get to add your voice, because you're not just the rest at the end of the day. If they hire you as a storyboarder, there's a reason. They've seen your stuff. They like your sensibilities, and your sensibilities, you can't get rid of it. It's who you are. So, Kay, I've seen a question like 5 times. It's the same question, but it's an odd one. People are asking how they can storyboard before they write the script because, they think in images, but not in words. What do you have to say about that?
Okay, I struggle with this a lot. I'm making a short film right now, for instance, that I mostly storyboarded. Didn't really write it. Actually, I film school honestly ruined me a little bit for writing, because I used to write a lot of prose stuff before then, and now I'm actually relatively crap at that. I don't write nearly as much as I used to, or at least I think now visually. So this is a very common kind of problem. What to do? I would suggest just then trying to just keep it really easy on yourself. Do not try and make it like you will be able to tell from a very early stage with your thumbnails whether a thing works visually or whether it doesn't, or you'll be able to like part of doing a storyboard. If, for instance, you were making an animated film, you would really quickly be able to tell with a storyboard where the problems in that animation are going to be. I don't know, for instance, like maybe the storyboard is someone running through a forest or something, and then you go, I can't draw trees. That's a bit of a problem if you want to set a story in a forest, for example.
Yes.
So, yes, it's little things like that. I would go maybe with a thumbnailing method like this, except you maybe might not have a script. I've often done it with comics, for example, where maybe I'll just make an example over here, where I might do something like this. This might be the way I break down a comic, and I'll just give myself a random set of things, and I will kind of begin to write a story like this, and I'll go, I can actually cut that off over here, you know, and then I'm writing the dialogue in as I'm going, but I'm keeping the characters almost literally this blank, like maybe they, maybe they have a particular kind of a silhouette or something, which is a little easier to draw and makes them easy to distinguish. But yeah, maybe like, and then I might just feel my way through it this way. I recommend this way because it does end up going to some very interesting places, but also you end up doing every single tiny little beat. The animators struggle with this a lot. When you can tell when an animator does a graphic novel, because they tend to do every single smallest beat.
They animate still.
Yeah. Yes, and the whole like trick with comics is really that you can say meanwhile, and suddenly without any explanation, the story is happening 2 hours later or 2 years later or in a totally different locale or with totally different characters. Like, that's the power of storyboarding, is you have words to be able to help you along. So you don't have to physically see the character go through every single tiny little beat. So yeah, it's.
I hope that answers those questions, because there were a few of them. And there's a lot of questions about Clip Studio Paint. I don't know how to answer them. I don't use Clip Studio Paint. Is it how much is it? How much is it? Is it memory heavy?
I don't find it super memory heavy. I really only use it for comics, and its main feature over something like Photoshop. Of course, the inking is really nice. I enjoy it very much, but the main reason I use it over something like Photoshop is that it allows me to work in story modes. So I'm sure you guys are all familiar with this, but if we had to go create something over here, I can actually create, no, that's a zine, that's printing a fanzine, isn't it? If I was going to go and like make a storyboard, I could set the number of pages over here. I'll just keep all this stuff as is. I'll say 5-page comic, and go okay. Okay, so you have to preset where this goes for to. I'll just put this on the desktop somewhere.
Housekeeping is very important.
No, I can't find a place to put this now. Where can I just put this, please? Cancel. Okay, just let me do the thing. Oh, in case of cover page, more than factor 2, etc. Fine, make it a 6-page comic spread. Okay, now just let me have a comic, please. And it'll take a while to do. But anyway, it will open up. It will open up several pages. So I can have these pages open while I'm doing this whole deal. This, I believe, is in like it's in the slightly fancier version of Clip Studio. This is Clip Studio Paint EX. So this is not in the more basic version. I don't know what that is necessarily, but this is really useful for me as a storyboarder, because I like to see overviews of things.
Yes,
I wish I could actually go in, if I had to make one extra thing here, I wish I could go in here and physically write on these little thumbnails over here, because you can do that with programs like Storyboard Pro, for example, which is probably one of the most advanced storyboarding softwares out there. You can thumbnail in the thumbnail views.
Thumbnail. There's also that capability in TV Paint as well. That's why I like it so much. So you can write over there and make your notes and make little tags. You just kind of group. So in the chat, thank you, Pranessa, to all panelists attendees, because a lot of people have been asking me the same question, which books there are. So if you guys go to the chat, you'll see Pranessa has answered, because I've been answering maybe like 7 times. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
So one more time, it's framed ink. It's 100 Tuesday tips, and it's sketchbook composition studies for film for those people that are watching. Cool.
So,
So
yeah, I think I've gone over unforgivably, but
I think
yeah,
that's what I was gonna say. I think the guys from Wacom will tell us to stop because you guys were warned. We don't like stopping.
yes.
You were warned before time.
I know, and I'm not going to stop you for a little while, so keep going if you want to. But
Cool. Yeah, we'd absolutely
Are
love to
there
carry
any
on.
Are there any questions from your side, Wacom, that you are seeing particularly that we must answer? Because now it's on 98, and I don't know which ones to choose.
it's hard to stay on top of all those questions coming in. I've seen a couple of questions that repeatedly pop up, and that is concerning time management. So it usually starts like, okay, how much time do you spend on storyboarding, which is probably a little bit too vague. And then it's going down to how much time usually do you have between brief and until you have to finalize the storyboard, or maybe as an indication, how much time do you spend on a page, for example?
That's really wide.
Okay.
Right? That's a wide question. It depends.
Yes.
It depends on the due date. Most projects have a due date when they come to you. You don't make it up. So it could be in a week. It could be in 3 days. It could be in 3 months. So you have to. That's what I train my people as well, is to work backwards. Always start with the due date and see what's possible. Then you work backwards, because it's easy to overcommit and put 92,000 characters and then you don't finish it. You've got 3 amazing shots, but they gave you 15 scenes. You understand? So always work in context, and drawing like the grid and using the Starman can really save your life, because you get to understand if the director and you are sharing the same goal for the shot sequence or scenes or not, as opposed to overcommitting, because a lot of people like to do that. They overcommit and then get sad when they have to change, because as I said, boarding is reboarding. That's the job. Your job is to get excited to get the changes. If that part doesn't excite you, there might be a problem. Maybe you're doing too much cleanup before you should.
Yeah, totally. I was literally actually doing this yesterday with a director for an ad, where I had my screen shared much like I do right now, and I was thumbnailing as we were going along. So one thing I find that really helps in terms of time saving is, I mean, with storyboarding, you get to know how fast you can do things, and you also find ways to kind of speed yourself up a lot. It's and there's like possibly little tricks and things to that, but it really just comes down to, like, you kind of just push beyond needing things to look pretty all the time. Like the main thing that really prevents a project from going forward is not having director's approval on something. So not having everybody on the same page. But so the soonest you can get someone else to look at your thing and go, yes, good, go for it, go ahead, then the sooner you can get the project done. So if you are in a production phase with anybody, or working with a writer, or doing any of that, the way that you can, like, it's better to be able to thumbnail things right there with them, just so that you can double check things with the script. And always ask questions. Ask the dumbest questions. Ask really stupid, obvious questions.
You'll find that 5 of you have that same dumb question. It's just the other ones think it's too dumb. Yeah.
No, totally, because you can't really take anything for granted when it comes to a film set or something. Like I've totally been in meetings and stuff where it's like you get to the end of the thing, and then somebody says something, and then you go, oh wait, I thought they were all on a beach. Like I thought this was all happening on the beach or something. No, you're saying this is happening indoors. Damn, I have to rethink everything in my mind. So it's really dumb little things like that, like stuff that, like, because the flow of information is so thick and fast and happening on so many levels, like visually, in writing, in in Excel sheets, in PowerPoint presentations. It's just like the information's coming at you from all sides. You need, like, a storyboard is actually, it's actually a way that film sets and production sets, it's the way that they save money, because they save time. if you can save, like a storyboard will save everybody the time of going, what angle, what are they wearing, who's in the scene, where are we and where are we at? Like imagine if a director had to tell somebody what a scene looks like person. And had to tell
every
300 people.
Yeah. Every day.
Do you think 300 people working on set are all going to have the exact same idea of what is going into the scene? No. So that's where storyboarding is invaluable to production sets.
Know how to portion the panels. Okay, there's some cool questions coming through here.
Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing and stop noodling so I can actually look at these questions and things.
Yeah, please join me. There's so many.
Yes, sorry. There's leaving you all on your lonesome here. Please feel free to repeat your questions, guys.
Yes, please.
We are kind of like looking at one thing, doing another.
I see a lot of there's a couple of questions that have a similar concept, which is they like reading, they hate writing, they love drawing. That's not a bad place to be. It's really not a bad place to be.
Yeah. So,
in terms of if you want to start boarding your own story, but you don't like writing, Kay just showed you how to do that. And someone had a really nice idea. I think it was in the chat. I just saw it pop up. It sounded like a lady. She said she hates writing, loves reading. What do we think about her storyboarding stuff that she's read from the fiction? I say yes. Yeah, I actually did that for a couple of times for some Brandon Sanderson books, but I started loving it too much. Yeah, I started loving it too much where my work started suffering, so I had to stop because it was too cool.
Yeah,
it was too cool.
Fan art is a wonderful way of getting yourself, of practicing making stories, because it's quite difficult to get over the hump sometimes of like you kind of feel like you need to come out the gate swinging with like the biggest story and so on. And I see it so many times when people want to start a story, it's often their own post-apocalyptic lives, if I can put it that way. Yeah, that's the genre that everyone starts in, and there's a reason for that. It's kind of a, people don't often start making stories for happy reasons. So there's kind of a, people want to make these giant stories, and it actually feeds into this one question over here, like, should you start with bigger stories or smaller stories? I personally think that smaller stories can teach you just as much as larger stories can, and they're easier to finish. So psychologically, they help you get on the horse and stay on the horse, which is really, when you're looking at longevity in this kind of industry or in this sort of job or hobby or whatever, however you choose to pursue it, longevity is really the key there. It's not so much, you're no good to anybody if you burn yourself out on a book after 2 years and never make anything again. Where are you going to be in 5 years? Where are you going to be in 10 years? Like, do you want to make the comic in your 20s, and do you want to be producing the animated show in your 30s or 40s? These things take that kind of time. Let me see. Oh, is getting into an art school mandatory to be able to get a job in the animation or comic industry? No, I personally don't think so. You may, yeah.
No. Most of my favorites animation artists are self-taught. That's because they didn't have someone to tell them, oh, you can't be an animator and a layout artist. So they didn't know the limitations. Excuse me. So their brains just said, oh, I have to be able to do everything. Some of them, it's either or. It either works for you or it works against you. There's no mid ground. So some people, it works completely against them, where they're like, I have to know everything, where others don't realize that they're actually learning so much. Like LaShawn Thomas is one of my personal favorites, and he's self-taught. And he realized that, my character just can't float. I need to draw environments. He can be good at environments. He needs to drive. He started to draw cars. So no, to answer you, no. Some of us are lucky enough to go into good schools, but if not, just YouTube has so much. Oh my God, like the stuff that you find on YouTube and in books and on Pinterest, and just keep drawing.
I'd say the main reason to go to school is if you want to travel. Most countries, if you're a South African, you need a visa to go anywhere. Yeah. If you are European, possibly not then, but also like if you want to move somewhere, like if I wanted to move to Canada, for example, I believe I would need, Canada's maybe a bad example, but like Australia, for instance, they have a lively animation scene. If I wanted to move to Australia as an animator, I believe I would need a minimum of a BA, a minimum of a degree to be able to move somewhere. So just in terms of like being able to get into like the logistics of being able to get into into other countries to be able to do this work, which might not even be a thing now. This is the post-COVID world, like, you know,
people probably don't want to travel
staying
anymore,
at home. Yeah, it's really like where you can go depends on the strength of your internet connection, which we thank the internet gods for our really strong internet connection today, because that's not a given here in South Africa. What was the other one? There's kind of a good one here. Oh, how do you start storyboarding as a beginner? Some of you saw Lesego had some beautiful pencil sketches there where he sort of used that just to rough out an idea and sort of move his way really quickly through a rather large project. And it's really like you can kind of think of storyboarding as like breaking down a large project into smaller bits and pieces. If you want to start storyboarding digitally, sorry, I would recommend whatever kind of Wacom product you can afford. I recommend a graphic.
That was my answer to one of them, like which Wacom tablet to get. I'm like, the one you can get is the best one because they're quite robust. Wacom is the most robust. I found.
They're very, very robust. And just like it's like driving a Cadillac. It's so good. But I would recommend getting a graphic tablet. It doesn't have to be a screen tablet. Can easily be one of the little ones that you sort of lay flat, and maybe Photoshop, a subscription of Photoshop, where I would like to say like Clip Studio could probably work. It has an animation function, and you can storyboard very effectively with animation functions. But I personally use Photoshop. And look up how to layer comp. Look up how to use layer comps in Photoshop. That's how a lot of industry professionals use that. Another wonderful tool is Toon Boom Storyboard Pro, which is
it's amazing,
fabulous.
It's really expensive. It's really expensive, but
that's like 400. Well, I mean, in rands, it's like 400, 600 rand a month. Which, if you are a professional storyboard artist, that's not a bad cost to eat. If you are a beginner and a hobbyist, then that's maybe a little bit too much.
I'm one of those old school guys that want to own the software. I don't I want to own it, but owning it, that's where the price is like, no, what? Because they got me addicted to it at Goblana. We used Storyboard Pro 2 years in a row. And I was like, oh my God, I'll never ever use anything again. And then I found out the cost. That's when, because I already had TV Pen, that's when I was like, actually, how can I use this to the best of my advantage? So you see, guys, out of necessity came my preference. Now I really prefer TV Pen in terms of storyboarding, animaticking, because I start thinking camera from the beginning. I'm like, camera.
Another good question here: is there a difference between storyboarding for live action or a live action or a live movie? Sorry, live action and an animation and an animated movie. Yes, live action storyboarding, as I said, you kind of just you kind of just draw a new image for whenever the camera changes or whenever a character changes position. It's more like it's called blocking. So in theater, for example, like you take notes when a character, not so much what a character's saying in dialogue, but when a piece of dialogue moves a character from one end of the stage to another, because suddenly you're changing the composition of the stage. And it's the same with live action storyboarding. You might only change the character dynamic, not so much on you might only change the angle, not so much when a character is done saying a line. So someone else was asking, like, do we have a new camera angle for every line of dialogue? It's like, no. Maybe if the character is moving a lot,
but try not to.
Try not to, yeah, because dialogue is fairly fluid. It's rewritten at the last minute. They cut out whole lines and things. Whereas changing angles and changing cameras, you generally don't want to do that on a live action set any more than you can help, because it takes time to do that. It's not just about like, okay, let's set up all the lights and everything and then move the camera from here to here and here. Like if you've ever actually been on a film set, whenever they change the camera ever so slightly, that's 2 hours of your life just redoing the lights and making everything look perfect. It's not like a television show, for example, where you'll have kind of a stage set up with all the lights and everything going there, and then you have like 3 or 4 cameras that just move slowly. You know, they're kind of like moving on dollies between
they've been programmed
the characters. Yeah, and even then in television shows, like normal sitcom situations and things, they move the cameras very slightly. It's very, very tiny movements, and more often than not, they'll just zoom in or cut in really close. So one camera is focused very close on a character's face. Other cameras are focused to get in master shot and get in the big scene. There was something else here that was pretty good. Oh, how much can I charge for a storyboard? We're not the best ones to be able to tell you because we work in rands, so a rand to $1, it's about, it's any given day, a rand is about 16 to 19 rand to $1. So we would do the conversion rate for you and you would laugh. I've been told by US professionals that they charge anywhere between maybe $40 to $60 an hour to storyboard, which is not a terrible rate. It might even be much more if you're a guild person. I don't know what guild you need to be part of. It's not my sort of thing. If you're a guild member in the United States, for example, or maybe Europe has various guilds for live action, for filmmaking and so on, then you might be able to charge guild rates. But yeah,
also, people, you must ask
really
the
charge
studios
whatever
that you're interested in. You need to ask the studios that you're interested in, show them your portfolio. Don't put institutions at such a high level. At the end of the day, it's people. We're all people.
Yeah.
So if you send an email, you'll be shocked that you got a response.
Yeah, these places are not like, they're not sacred places of worship or something that you can only approach once a year and with the fatted calf and so on. Like you don't need an excuse to hit someone up on Twitter and just go like, hi, so where do I where can I get in? Where can I talk about it and so on? And and Twitter's rather like this element here where like if any one of you were one-on-one with the two of us, we would give you all the information. We would douse you in information, but we can't because there's like a million of you and the feed is going too fast. So it's just purely in terms of like how fast is the feed? Do people see your question? It's all that kind of dynamic. You have to think of the social media sphere like that when it comes to getting hold of people. It's not like if they don't get back to you, it's not because they hate you. It's like they don't know anything about you.
There is a very good question here that says, I want to know what to put in your storyboarding portfolios. Good question.
Yes, I'm looking.
What happens
if
you click answer live?
Answer live.
Would like to answer. There's a button that says answer live. I just clicked it. So Venice, you asked, I want to know what to put in your portfolios. Obviously, you're speaking storyboarding, right? So storyboards, you have to put storyboards. I would suggest you put maybe 3 different genres: an action, a drama, a horror. If you haven't done them,
that goes to someone else's. That goes to someone else's thing about like, is it more helpful to be a gender-driven storyboard? I'm not entirely sure what they mean there, but then they name like various like horror, romance, etc.
No,
so
just
it's like,
be able, show ability to do different genres.
Things. Yeah.
And if you haven't done it, do it for your portfolio. Portfolio building is an actual exercise that takes time. You don't just put stuff together. It's that's what I've done. It's a job to build your portfolio. So I'd say put different genres, like especially like very different ones: action, drama, and horror. That's why I named those 3.
Ooh,
and if you like story art, do some story art.
Yeah, can we use a reverse storyboard for our portfolio?
Ooh,
that's a dangerous one because not many.
That's for you.
Yeah, that's a dangerous one because like not many people have seen the original storyboards of a movie.
Of that show.
So no one would be able to no one maybe but an industry professional who has looked at a lot of art would be able to look at that and go, they might look at that and go, oh shit, these are the Godfather storyboards. And then they would look at you and like, this person's 22, they're fucking copied. Sorry, swearing, but it's, you know, they copied or something like, and I've literally actually seen that. I think we had to look, I think we were looking for storyboarders for this current show that we're working on. And we were looking at these people's portfolios, and they were like, and the director was a little bit disappointed. He's like, oh, he copied on a thing. And it's not like copied, but it's like it's studies, you know. It's not like when you're doing nude life drawing, for example, like you're copying. But everyone understands that is an exercise that you're doing. But maybe as Lesego says, maybe it's just for you. Like maybe that's not your centerpiece, because I mean, if you copy something that's already done, like storyboarding is about generating ideas, not copying other people's ideas. So if it helps you to learn, fabulous. But we want to see something where you actually took a piece of script and broke it down yourself. So I wouldn't see any problem, for instance, if you took a piece of your favorite screenplay, for example, and then reboarded it a little bit like I did over here. But then be very clear about that up front as well, where you say,
because
this is an exercise I did where I broke down a piece of script from Pulp Fiction.
But now imagine you reverse storyboard like Attack on Titan, then you put that in your portfolio, and they think you can board like Attack on Titan, and they get you the lead storyboard job. Do you understand what trouble you're in?
Oh yeah, that's a good.
That's just for you. It's just for you to practice, so you stop being scared of storyboards. A lot of people are either scared of them or find them boring, but that's because both groups don't understand storyboarding. That's the problem. It's really not boring, and it's really not scary.
Yeah. Somebody asked about like how do you do a graphic novel quickly? How do you keep from getting mired in the details and so on? I would say kind of do my thumbnailing method in a way where it's like, this might be your initial, let me share screen here real quick to give you guys an inkling.
I think the chats have gone off in a very hard way tangent. A lot of people are speaking about Wacom. Yeah, Wacom, which one? So maybe Wacom, you can help us with that, because there's a lot of Wacom questions happening in the chat, not in the Q&A.
Yeah, I saw them popping up.
Sorry. Yeah, go for it.
Yes, I mean, as you've mentioned already, depends what you can get your hands on. There's obviously there's an advantage if you draw directly on screen, because it's the closest as you can get to drawing on paper.
To paper.
But sometimes it's also nice to have like your entire panel in front of you and just draw on a so-called opaque kind of surface that's flat in front of you. If you have the chance to see us at any of the events when they come back, hopefully soon, do a test and try. Go to your retailer, do a test and try, and see what works for you. Quality-wise, you can't go wrong. They last forever. Just try and select what works for you. Very simple advice.
I don't think any Wacom I've ever had, I've had for like under 5 years. They last a while.
I've never broken one. I always give them away. I've never broken one. I just like, okay, I'm moving up now. But it's also about a preference thing, because in terms of painting, I prefer using the Intuos, which is on the table and I can watch my screen, because my hand is in the way on my Cintiq. And then in terms of animation, I love my Cintiq. It's a 22 HD, because I'm animating and I'm in there. So if you have the privilege to have preference, you can.
Yeah, totally. Quickly to that question about like how do you quickly kind of thumbnail out a graphic novel.
How do you finish a graphic novel quickly?
Yeah, I think what's important is to always have overview. So you start from the general and go to the specific. So for example, as I said, like keeping things at a bit of an arm's length and not getting like right up here into the details, because I'm not interested at this stage what this man's eyes look like, or like, you know, doing detail or anything on this person's face. You kind of want to keep it far, and you even want to like make use of labeling and so on. So, and I tend to go via the old adage of keeping a scene per page. So if this is like the opening scene on the beach, if we're still on the beach here in the second scene, then it ends, the terminus is at the end of this page, where, you know, there's like, this is the last this is the last image of the beach on this page. So we have two scenes here on the beach before we go to like, okay, now we're in a high rise, now we're in now we're in an office building or something like that. So that it's really just kind of that, and it's a lot of this. You could go on forever, like doing just multiples of these, but keeping it really broad, keeping it as far away as possible for as long as possible, particularly if you are the type of person who wants to like write with drawings, as I so often do. You have to stay in this process until you get to the end and work in passes. Don't try and like finish this page and then go and like and then go and like detail this page. This page, you only get to do page one once you've done the last page.
Treat it like a drawing, you know. Treat it like a drawing. You start with a sketch and then you clean it. Unless you Kim Jong-gi and then you just start and then you end because you're a master. But treat everything like a drawing. So finish it like that. Someone is asking, what do you think about Satoshi Kon and Miyazaki storyboards? Marissa Martins, of course, you know what we think. It's what you think.
What do you think?
It's what you think, Marissa. It's
They're stunning. No, what we were saying last time when we were talking about this is that like the crazy thing for me about Hayao Miyazaki is that he's art directing while he's camera directing.
And composition and light and color, because he uses watercolor on top as well.
Yeah, same with people like Ridley Scott, for example, where like when he does storyboards and he doesn't publish them, I don't think like Hayao Miyazaki's stuff is just like you could just collect those things for books and books and books. But Ridley Scott does something similar, and it's kind of like he uses color in the storyboards, but he uses it to give sense of like the lighting, the atmosphere, and kind of a little bit of the production design as well. Because for him, the production design, and you see this with a lot of his movies like Blade Runner and so on, the production design, it's about the shapes that the environments make, because for him, environments have a giant effect on the characters. So yeah, it's like they're all just. I really admire directors who can do that. But yes, when you're doing comics, this is exactly what is so terrifying about doing comics sometimes, is because you are making a billion choices right up front, and in being able to make them in an overview, being able to like being able to give yourself some breathing room from the story, and being able to look at everything holistically first before you go in and start detailing, like, is that fountain pen he's using pre-1958 or post? Like, you can't make a choice like that while also deciding, do these two characters end up together or not? Like general to specific, guys. Don't give yourself too much work to do.
That actually speaks to the next question that I want to speak to. Maybe can be the last one. Wacom, if you don't stop us, we won't stop. Okay, we've been warned.
Don't stop, won't stop.
So again, please elaborate on the time per board. How do you figure out how much frames are needed for the scene? It's exactly what Kay just said. So can I share screens quickly? I want to show you guys Grizz and Norm again. Like it's these guys. Can you guys see my screen? You can, right?
Yeah.
So
feel free to go closer.
Yeah, here they're speaking about the difference between beatboards and storyboards. So if you've written your story and you understand exactly what you want to happen, just make a beatboard about it first. So beatboards are mainly used to pitch the broader beats of a movie, act, or sequence. They are closer in concept to a storybook illustration than an animation. So they're closer. If this is the script and this is the animation where we press play and we're like, oh, Miyazaki, we love you. Beatboards are closer to this. They're closer here instead of here. Hope that makes sense, guys. So general to specific.
Look at what Lesego just showed you over here, because it's really important. These 3 boards. This is how you begin to think when you think like a storyboard artist, when you're thinking in terms of story, because stories work as ABCs. beginning, middle, end. This beat board here is beginning, middle, end. Every camera move you do has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Every scene you do has a beginning, a middle, and an end. The end should look different to the beginning. And that's a really great way to kind of begin to think about this. Yes, you can get really intricate with the story. That there's even I believe at Disney there used to be a test for storyboard artists where they would give you a one-line story and see what you could do with that one-line story. And the one-line story was something like you help a little old lady across the road. Now you have to come up with an incredible story. You have to come up with, I think it's like 100 boards, 100 storyboards for that story to make that story interesting. So, and it could be anything. It could go anywhere. She gets kidnapped by aliens. You have to go after her. She turns into the beautiful princess of Mars. You marry her, you come back, and then you cross the road. That, all of these sort of, it could go anywhere. It could do anything. So you showed what kind of a storyboarder you were, what kind of a storyteller you are, because that's really what they're testing. They're testing, like, do you have ideas? Do you have stories? Are you spilling over with dramatic storytelling? Like, or do you have a great touch when it comes to drama? When it comes, like, can you tell a story that's so sweet that it makes people who watch it cry? Like, they will hire you in a second if you can make them cry at Disney for whatever reason.
Even if you can't draw really well, if you can emote and have sequential art. Okay,
yes,
I think that works.
Down. Okay.
Maybe one last question.
Okay.
Yeah, let's make it a good one.
You choose. Dealer's choice.
Oh Lord. Yeah, but I don't know. I want to choose a good one now, though. Like, oh gosh.
Yes, it's ending. Sarah Sanchez. Sorry to have to leave you.
Yes. Sorry.
Kay has a British accent. Apparently,
what?
Kay has a British accent. That's what I read.
Oh, do I? Lots of people here think I'm from the United States. So, yeah. That's yeah.
You're welcome, Kilborey. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Dash.
Well, okay. Well, here's Oh, here's one. If you're a one-man army in a short that will improve your chances in the industry with that one short. I'm assuming it's kind of like how do you get something made if it's just you?
It depends. You have your time management is everything. Like, someone like Rocket Boy or Tonico Pantoja, they do that. They are one-man tanks. But some people have actually gotten sick and had to stop animation because their backs gave out or their wrist gave out. So know who you are, know your limitations. You probably have friends. So rather start with asking a friend or someone who you're studying with or someone who's like-minded to help you before you just want to do it alone because you want to do it alone. But it is possible. Yeah. There's people that we both know that do it all the time. They've come to a point where they prefer doing it alone.
Yeah. And in that, it's also like I'm sure you've all experienced this to some degree. Like when you start telling people that you're interested in comics or animation or something, you get suddenly a lot of random people coming up to you and saying like, I have an idea for a comic. I have an idea for an animation or something. And they kind of want they want to make friends with you so that you will do it for them, so that you'll make it for them. And that's not how you ask someone to help you out. So even if you do have a friend who's willing to help you, it's better if there's buy-in from them and you're kind of approaching them as like, hey, you color better than I do. Like, will you take care of the coloring on this comic and I'll take care of the inking, or I'll take care of the writing. Like, I just need somebody to color, and then you work out some form of compensation. Doesn't always have to be money. It could be that
you can help them.
It could be that it could be that you both get your projects done together and you're repaying the favor for them down the line, or I don't know, you're letting them cash. Maybe they're like maybe they need a place to stay, or like they need a holiday house for the end of the year, or whatever it is. Like you work out something, but give them something with definite parameters to help them kind of get through, something that like people can get their heads around, because when it's very open-ended and there's no boundaries to a contract or to a favor, then it becomes really messy and it becomes very awkward to be able to ask people to kind of help out with it. But I agree with Lesego, like ask people for help, because I'm finding this myself. Like I'm very much I want to do it from beginning to end by myself. And the real truth is that when you are in a production, it's a story is better than it could have been with just you.
Mm-hmm.
A story is a lot better when you're working with a team of people, but then you have to codify that. You have to work that out properly. So yeah, I think that's all. That's all from us. If you guys want us to continue, we will. But yeah.
Wow. I'm stunned, and I think all of the others that have been following you are as impressed as we are here. There's still so many people in the forum. There's so many questions in the Q&As and in the chat. It's just amazing. You guys have been an amazing audience in UK, and Lesego have been great presenters. It's been a joy listening to you. So a wealth of information and inspiration, is highly appreciated. And as you both have mentioned, there's a lot of work that goes into creative projects, and it's always a team effort. So thank you very much for being part of the team here at Comic Week. It was really cool and enjoyable.
It was a spectacular experience. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity, and thank you for everyone who came to watch. You guys have been all so lovely.
Thank you, guys. Hopefully we get to do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful. So let me wrap this up with just sorry, I'm lying, 2 slides, because there's still so much, so many open questions. Do check us out on social media, be it Wacom, at Wacom on all the channels, or Clip Studio Official, or our presenters, Kay.Carmichael, Kay_Carmichael on Instagram and Twitter, or Lesego Vorster on Instagram. Check out their profiles, check out their artwork for inspiration. There's a lot to see, and it's a good way to connect with other people.
I don't promise you will see any artwork on my Instagram. You'll see mostly knitting projects.
Which is also good. I mean, we've been talking about inspiration. You need to open up your mind and find inspiration wherever it comes from. So
totally.
Yeah.
Break the routine.
Exactly. And again, if you're considering upgrading your gear, do check out the e-store with /Wacom-week /comic-week, or have a look at Take a Lot. Also, quick reminder from the guys from Clip Studio, because it also popped up in the questions. Keep an eye on the follow-up email after this session, because everybody who's filling in the survey that they share with that email is making chance to winning a full version of Clip Studio Paint Pro. So might be worth checking out. That is it for this session. Thanks again to everybody. If you're curious about more sessions during Comic Week, there's another nice talk coming up at 5 p.m. in an hour with Maya and Yehuda Devir. You might have seen them come across on various social media platforms. And it's going to be a nice session.
Oh, they're so cute.
Yeah, I love these guys. Good luck to both of them.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks very much. Thank you again, Kay and Lesego. It's been a blast, and chat soon. Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Fabulous.
Yes, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Cheers.